This is the meeting of the Parking Authority on Thursday, February 23rd. Meeting is starting shortly after 7 p.m. The meeting is being held in Independence Hall in the second floor conference room and also via Conference Bridge.
Excellent. Thank you, Renly. This is Rich Fitzgerald here. Good evening. I know we circulated the agenda just, I think, yesterday. First off, on the agenda, just a call to order the meeting, which we have. Next is to approve the January 26th meeting minutes. I know Eileen circulated them as well. I personally didn't have any comments. I didn't know if others...
Excuse me, I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah.
Is this an open meeting or is it closed meeting?
This is the Parking Authority. Is that what you wanted?
I was interested in saying it if I could.
You can come in.
Yeah, great.
I'll keep quiet.
Okay, no, you're welcome to join. So we had a guest, this is open meeting, so we have a guest in the room today. But as I was saying, we are approving the meeting minutes from January 26th. I didn't personally have any comments. I didn't know if others did, and if not, I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, Adrian second them. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent.
Okay.
Great. Next on the agenda here is we have the audit has been concluded, and I'm pleased to have Joe, who's on the line today from, who's obviously our auditor and accountant, and I will turn it over to Joe to do his presentation on the financial position and the audit for the parking authority. So take it away, Joe.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm just going to start with the balance sheet. We're going to talk about a few things that are different than they were last year, and this is due to a new accounting standard for leases. So it affects both the lessee. When you're a lessee and lessor, there's different disclosures and accounting requirements for both, and both of them were applicable to the authority this year. So if we're just looking at the balance sheet, the statement in that position, you'll notice under receivables, there's a lease receivable current portion, there's a lease receivable long-term portion. You'll see the right to use land improvements. That's another new line this year as a result of the new standard.
Joe,
and then down below.
Joe, this is Mike Canivas. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that obviously jumped out at me. Can you define that? Explain what that is?
Explain.
What I'm not familiar with. I mean, it's a $3 million, asset. Just what is that? What is that comprised of, and how is that defined?
So basically, that's the right to use the parking lots that you use, and that's calculated, based upon the amount of rent that you pay, how long you pay it, and that type of thing. So what GASB did is they basically made the equivalent of leasing to be to issuing debt, and normally when you issue debt, you're doing that for an asset. So you record the asset as a right to use. Again, in this case, land improvements, parking lot, and then a liability for what you have to pay for that right to use the property. So basically, there used to always be two kinds of leases, and then now in the government world, there's just one kind of lease. It's the equivalent of debt. So if you look down below, you'll see the lease payable, current and non-current, and it's kind of offsetting your asset. It's not a direct offset, but you'll see $3.2 million asset and then a little more than $3.2 million liability for what you have to pay. So that's the concept, and always with government, it seems like the standard setters are just trying to look at like what are you committed to, versus what's the budget, what do I got to pay, and what's your annual budget. They want to know kind of long term. You're committed basically to pay for leases for whatever the period, and there's certain disclosures that would show some of that. So that's kind of what that is. Again, it mostly offsets. And then the receivable is the same thing, and the standard is designed where the lease has to be more than a year. So the numbers here are a little bit lower because a lot of your leases are currently month to month, so they're not meeting the definition of the standard and not being recorded. The revenue is being recorded, but there's no receivable And then you see down below the deferred inflows, 174. So, that's related to the lessor side, where the authority is the lessor for the property, record receivables, and then the deferred, because it's a multi-year lease. You didn't earn it all in 1 year, so that kind of gets amortized in to revenue over the life of the lease. And then in a minute, when we look at the operating statement, we'll see the impact on that, because that changed a couple things on that side also. But that's kind of the background as far as what the standard requires, and so that's what you spend. Those are the major changes as compared to prior year.
Great. And just on
Any
the
other-
year-over-year decrease in building and improvement, is that just offsetting the 210 to the 166 just year-over-year? Is that just depreciation that's kind of getting offset there? Is that one more
Yes.
year of that? Okay.
Right.
Okay. So in total, assets basically flat year-over-year, even with the lease, adjustment here. So.
Right, because we did restate. If you look, the requirement was kind of to restate
Right.
21. So for comparative purposes, you see the beginning of the 3.5, and then that's amortized versus depreciated. So you see that word added, in the current year, and we'll see on the next page, the effect on depreciation or amortization expense. That's way up, and that's again driven because of the amortization of the lease asset.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions on, the statement of net position before we look at call it the operating statement or the statement of revenues and expenses?
I'm fine to take it over to the statement of cash flows and the rest of the financials, but thank you for that.
Okay. Sure. Okay, so we look at the next statement, the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position. A couple things to highlight before we look at the leases. Your day fees went up $177,000 as compared to last year. Your lease revenue now.
If I could explain that, just, make sure everybody on the board is aware. So what happened was, we moved into a different parking management system. And so people, instead of getting tickets on their cars, they pay at the kiosk or they pay on the mobile app.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening is we're collecting those day fees immediately, whereas before we had more of a risk of not uncollectibles and things of this nature. So we still give out, there's still tickets are given out if somebody doesn't pay at all, but the majority of people are paying upfront on that day, and that's increased. The day parking fees have gone up for that reason. Also, too, because of, post-COVID, I'll call it, but a little different time, we have a lot more people who are going in a little less frequently, and they don't have a permit, so they're paying day fees instead of having in the old days, they would have a permit and park 5 days a week. Now, if they're only going in 1 or 2 days a week, well, usually one, they will just pay a day fee and not get a permit. Thanks, Joe. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that with everyone here.
Sure. All right, so you see the lease revenue, and that's going to, now differ from the actual rent that you collect because of the amortization, because of the receivable and that deferred inflow and the way that's amortized using a present value calculation. So that $88,000 is different from the cash lease revenue. So now it's kind of converted to accrual. So we see you're looking down under operating expenses. We see rent. You no longer have rent expense, and that's because what you pay for rent now goes against the liability. And then the other portion, if we look down below under non-operating, you see interest expense. And again, like I mentioned up front, the leases are treated like debt. So what you pay in rent, if we look at prior year, the 354, basically now the standard is splitting that between principal and interest. So part of it reduces the liability, and part of it is going to be shown as interest expense. And then, as I mentioned, if you look at depreciation and amortization line, that's up considerably, about $300,000, and that's again because of the depreciation of the right to use the land improvements, the parking lots.
Okay.
So kind of looking at the bottom line, you ended about changing that position of a negative $32,000. So again, we'll look at the flows in a minute, but if you kind of look at what's your depreciation expense, so you're positive cash flowing, but on an accrual basis, a little bit of a loss, but definitely an improvement from the prior year.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the next statement, the cash flows, you will see that the net increase in cash is the $466,000. So the operations, like last year, are generating positive cash flow this year. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the highlights of the financial statements. I'm not sure if there's any specific questions. I mean, a good year.
Yeah, definitely.
Operations.
Better than the previous
Yeah.
year. We're not out of the woods yet,
Yeah. But we're
Right.
definitely.
yeah, hopefully stabilization and with upward, trajectory here, but just a little more would be better. But
Yeah.
anything as you went through, I know, any other observations just preparing this, obviously with the introduction of the system, is that hopefully treated as a positive for you and your team doing the audit, or is there any other items that we should be aware of from the board's perspective?
Yeah, I think year one was a little rougher because some of the data was, we'll say, wasn't as complete. I think in year two, and I'm probably more talking about the parking ticket. That data did seem to flow. Some of the information I got from them initially kind of just seemed to be what data they had, not historical. So, I mean, if you looked at the parking ticket receivable, it went up, and then that's partly because of that. Although again, most of that is old stuff, as Lee was mentioning, because not as many tickets because of the daily fees are addressing that. So I think it is a positive. I get some pretty good reports from them as far as the activity. And we use those to do some of the accounting as far as what the unearned is, as far as your prepaid parking fees, and then some details on what the activity is for the parking tickets and not receivable, although it's a small number. So I think year two was a little bit clearer, to us as far as the data that they had and the capability, and so it seems to be working hopefully the way you intended it to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I work with them regularly to just add some other features that are beneficial to customers that would encourage them to use these apps and things like that. So I think it's been good. It's definitely a huge improvement over the parking management system we had prior.
And you're not touching a lot of checks, and I think that's a big positive.
Right.
Just the payment alone going systemically, and so it's good news. I mean, you've done a lot of hard work in that area, so thank you for all your help. So. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone?
I have a question. I'm not a finance person, so this may be totally off the mark, in which case just shut me down.
Can you hear her, Joe?
Can you hear me? Sorry, I have this sinus infection, so I'm thinking.
If not, I'll repeat it for you.
I'm just wondering, given that there's a reinterpretation thing, if there are certain things that we can do that might benefit the parking authority to, are there investments that should be made that would kind of change the playing field? Or, that would somehow that would be interpreted in a different way kind of thing.
I guess define investments. I know we talked last month
Yeah.
about a capital project
Yeah,
that we
well,
want to do.
Right, so are there certain things that we talked about last month
Yeah.
that might suddenly look more attractive or less attractive?
Oh, I see. Well, and we have that list.
How they're
Yeah,
interpreted.
I would say not really.
Yeah,
I mean, we kind of,
We're kind of like are digging ourselves out of the trough, I would say.
Yeah.
Are we fully back? No.
Yeah.
But are we keeping the lights on and going to kind of do safety and soundness on?
right.
Yeah, I think those are some of the basics, but it's not like, I mean, at least in my opinion, we're not where we were pre-COVID.
Yeah, okay.
But I hope in the next year, given some of the numbers that we're seeing on the daily revenues, like the Parkers, we're slowly getting back there. But will it get back to pre-COVID? I don't know.
Yeah, nobody knows.
I have to keep walking farther and farther.
I know.
I want to take that 721 train.
I see that too.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
But,
Why? Because the lot's fuller, yeah?
yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. It is,
Right.
especially during Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, Joe, we want to be respectful of your time. Thank you for your team's effort. I know we always talk about getting this maybe a little bit sooner in the process, but it came together. But next year, hopefully, if we could continue to move this kind of goalpost a little closer to when year end is completed, that's the only kind of feedback we have for you. But we are certainly appreciative of your efforts and your time this evening.
Sure. Okay. Yep. We'll try to do the least standard kind of. We'll say held up. We'll say the whole state kind of in a sense. So that was a little blip, but we'll definitely aim to get this completed sooner. Now that things are kind of lined up,
Right.
and now it's more roll forward than trying to build and figure this all out and that type of thing.
First year's always the toughest on getting that. But thank you, and we'll let you sign off.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
Great.
Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Good night.
Thank you, Joe.
Sure. Bye.
Bye. Okay.
I think next up was just the parking authority, the office
Yeah,
report.
office report.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very briefly, the office report, parking staff. Today we had about 750 parkers. Month-to-date average is about 715. Day parkers, month-to-date average is 120, with 90% continuing to be in Fairfield, 10% at Southport. And for permit staff, we've sold about 1,925 permits. 1,670 were in Fairfield, 255 in Southport. And the 1925 differs from last year when we had sold a little more than 2,000. And back in the pre-COVID days, we were at 2.2, 2.3. So we're under where we were last year in terms of permits, not by a lot, but we are under. And at this point in the year, in February, I think we'll get a handful more people, but we won't get 75 more people or anything. And one thing is kind of interesting is we get a lot of interest, but only about 60% of the people who express interest actually purchase the permit. So I don't know whether they call because they think we're going to say there's a 2-year wait. And then when we say, no, you can have one today, they're like, oh, I wasn't counting on that so soon. I don't know. But, we continue to, anyone who calls in and we talk to them and we tell people that who park often, if they park at least twice a week, it's worthwhile to get the permit.
Right. Okay.
And that's the report, not much.
Good.
So next,
Yeah, capital project.
Yeah.
Next is just continue our conversation on capital projects. Did we have an attachment, or are we kind of just continuing the updates?
We're kind of prioritizing. I could go make a copy of the thing I had last time. But we were talking about prioritizing the projects. I think it was agreed at last meeting that we were gonna focus on security,
Safety.
and those items. And to that end, I've, making contacts regarding updating the security cameras. We have a contractor in place to paint and repair the Fairfield station. Probably would take place in May or June timeframe. And they'll take care of all of that. Then we're waiting on engineering on drawing, and then we'll do the interior renovations. And that's the main things. We also had on our list the replacing the Umpqua Stairs plexiglass. Solar panels, and then some things down the road that we had kind of put off, like the restroom upgrade. We said that we would do that. That wasn't the first priority. The windscreen removal on the platforms, those will need replacement at some point, or at least repainting. And we've also talked about extending the platform overhangs. That would be a very large expense. We had a couple other items, but I know the last meeting we talked about the security cameras, number one, and looking at the renovations. So I'll leave it out to you guys to discuss, the other ones you want to tackle, including the plexiglass, solar panels.
Stairs
The
are
roof,
my project too, but
the stairs.
plexiglass is pretty bad, I mean, I think aesthetically.
And the lighting, the lighting upstairs.
Yeah, I think those are, I think it's a great short list. As we said, we want to prioritize the safety net first, just given, I think, our fiduciary responsibility. But, and I think some of this is still, Eileen's getting quotes on a few of these services, and that's where I think we're going to come back again, hopefully next month, to say, we already know painting looks like it's already booked. That just takes lead time to get done. Cameras, I think there's been some observations there. Nothing's been done with solar panels yet, but I think just continuing along this short list is just in our best interest, I believe. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry.
And one thing, Mike, that I had said was I thought when we do the plexiglass or whatever polycarbonate, whatever material we use, if we made it clear as opposed to that color,
more light.
whatever it is, that will help the lighting as well. But I think that when you do that, you do the whole thing and fix the stairs, fix the lighting, change out the, because you don't want to take those stairs out of commission for 3 times.
Yeah, how would you do that?
And I don't know how we would do it. That's going to be a real challenge. But if it's a plexiglass, I'd talked to, because I had a couple of people come in and look at the stairs, and they felt that they could do it like after the rush hour or something, but you're still going to have a couple people walking over, but they could try and do one side in one area, but it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah,
I don't know
communication have to go
I don't
out too.
remember, I was commuting them, but I don't remember what was done when they put that overhang over the stairs.
People clearly have to go over
the roofing. I don't remember, but how did they get to
Maybe
Naughty
put
Dolphin's
in
side?
a temporary staircase? Because you could, even if you put it on that, I don't want to get too far off the paved road, but if you went down, put a temporary staircase down the hill on Umpqua, you'd have to.
Yeah, but I think it's the other side that's the challenge.
Naughty Dolphin.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right. It definitely needs a power washing. That I definitely see, and that'll spruce it up slightly. But that's just a temporary thing.
What do you mean, the stairs themselves?
Yeah, like if you look at it, they're really dark. Like when you power wash, you guys everyone's probably done this before. Like it just makes
look
it
new.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe
they
maybe
so
we'll get
much
2 more
use.
inches out of that, I don't know. Just kidding.
But what, I mean, because I don't go there that often, but what is, are they
To me,
broken, or are they just?
To me, the stairs, you've got the riser and the run, right? The
Yeah.
runs, I think, are too short.
Too short.
I think they're about an inch too, I mean, they're to code, but that's not, but for me, at my advanced age.
When you're
it's, you know,
flying up and down.
Yeah, if you're running late
Yeah.
for your train, you're like, wow.
happy to be home and making your way to the car.
Yeah.
But I think if you did the, you know, in stages with the plexiglass, get more light in there.
Yeah, that's the other one, just the.
So if you closed the stairs for a period of time, then people would have to walk from the Naughty Dolphin, like all.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
That would be.
That'd be
really
tough.
challenge.
I don't know if they could do like a walk, like a temporary walkover, like all the way over, I don't know. That's, like I said,
Right.
we have to assess all that.
Borrow under.
Yeah, that's right, like Westport.
So refresh my memory from on the Naughty Dolphin side, there's a staircase that goes up to Umpqua Road?
Yes,
And then you walk down Umpqua a little bit, you
yeah,
go
and
back
then
down.
come down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And so you're talking about fixing both sets of stairs?
or assessing.
The down,
Yeah.
The eastbound side is not,
Eastbound
that is
side.
the westbound, yeah.
Yeah,
But nevertheless, the plexiglass is.
It's like that yellowy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
old
can't even
and,
look through
and
it.
it's been graffitied
Yes,
so many times
it's
that
not good.
the chemicals that we use to take off the graffiti has discolored.
Yellow.
It's
Yeah.
just, so now they were talking to me that they have some, materials that are not, nobody's 100% resistant to graffiti, but they have that is a little bit more resistant, plus they have special cleaners for graffiti. And if you use that, it will keep it for a lot longer. I mean, eventually it gets over time.
I could see that, but I'm trying to think, you know, in terms of like what you were talking about, how would you fix that problem? I mean, wouldn't you have to like start fresh, you know?
I know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I seem to recall what you're talking about, because I go to a Ranger game every once in a while, but that's not the other time. And, yeah, they're really narrow, yeah.
I mean, what's the budget, if you had to estimate how much?
Well, I know to do the, and it's not the materials for the plexiglass, it's the fact that it's in a frame.
Yeah.
If you walk up, you'll see there's a frame, and the frame is connected to the whole overhang. So the whole thing is like one system. So they can't just knock out the frame. They'd have to, literally take the screws, rivets out, remove the current plexiglass, measure the exact thing, and get it precisely cut to fit back in the frame and re-screw it in. So they said 90% of it is going to be labor,
Yeah.
and it would take a long time.
But I think it'd be a nice
Three
way to,
people said that.
it'd be a good way for everybody.
Yeah,
That's
Oh,
one,
yeah.
everybody would experience that, and for most people, yeah.
it's gonna look clean.
Yeah, and I mean, if we did it in the summer when there's less
Right.
people,
Yeah.
that would be
Exactly.
maybe better.
Mhm.
Right. So do you know what the pool is for the capital?
We tagged about 100,000, I think, of kind of budget, and painting, I think, is
Mm-hmm.
20-ish.
Yeah, right.
So we haven't aggregated all this together, but cameras, we should have room for a couple of these. And then
How much is the plexiglass?
we haven't priced.
It would be, no, I did.
Oh, okay.
It would be, they were all very ballpark, because it just depends on what goes on, and they don't know if the labor is gonna be more than that. But it would probably be at least 25,000.
That's actually less than I would, yeah.
Yeah, it could go up. They said, if they're there, and then they've experienced some things and it's not coming out, or the frames end up getting destroyed
Right.
or something like that, they're not holding up. Now you're talking about the bill just going up and up. But they said we would try and do it like around 25,000 as a ballpark.
So what are the action items for those? So what do you still have to get estimates on?
Security cameras,
Security cameras?
Security cameras is a big one, yeah.
leveraging, Aline was doing some homework with
Yeah,
the town vendors to see if there's some synergies there,
yeah.
good or bad.
And then the point of sale that I talked
Yeah,
about,
that
that
one,
I really
yeah.
wanted to have for our office, I talked with Passport, and they can offer it. So they're working on a list of point-of-sale devices that they can integrate with, and once they give us that list, then I can go and purchase one and have it at our counter, so that anybody who comes in to, pay a ticket, buy a permit, whatever, they can use their credit card or a debit card, and they don't have to do cash or checks anymore.
Good. I'm all about that.
Yeah, I mean, so
That
many
makes
people
life
come
easier.
in.
Yeah.
Nobody has cash.
Yeah.
We've had people that have come and said, oh, you don't take credit card? All right, let me go to the bank. And they have to go
Right.
to the bank down the street and
Well, that
come
would
back
be me,
again.
Taking the 2%. All right. Well, very good on capital projects.
So I guess I'll just continue getting the more quotes, and is there anything else you want me to focus on besides the things that I'm doing in terms of capital?
Well, can I just, if we're at about 100,000 and we've already spent, approximately
50.
20 on the, I'm sorry, 50, we spent 20 on the painting, and then I think we're all in agreement that we want to do the security.
Yeah, I
And
don't know what that
I'm
would
on
be.
board with what you guys are telling me about the stairs. And then the point is, how far along with that 100,000 are we?
I think we'll be past it.
You'll be past it.
I think
Well,
the stairs is,
Yeah, and we're also separately having a discussion with the town to see if we can get some support as well. I mean, I tried to have a meeting last Friday, where we're still trying to reschedule to give them a little more transparency.
You're talking
I'm also
the
trying to look
stairs,
for
the
grants.
plexiglass, and redoing the lighting would eat up all of that, huh? Just that,
Well,
not fixing.
I think that's a huge expense.
Yeah.
Plus, if we do the painting, which it's 20,000, but let's just assume that we got to have at least 5,000 contingency there because there's a lot of wood rot. And I think the cameras are going to be quite expensive. So I don't know, but I think what you guys should do, I shouldn't say that, but I think what I would suggest is that you take a vote to move some of that money into a STIF account.
Yes.
And at least have it earmarked for these projects so that, we have
I'm in
that.
favor of that. Want me to make a motion for that?
Sure.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that, so.
Yeah, and that's just us just kind of segregating our total cash and putting it into, we'll still have access to it, but at least it's just one of those items, so. And we can pay it out of that account, so.
Right.
Should I make the motion?
Yeah, and I think, some of it might be able to be capitalized, but some of it I think it may be expensed. And then, I'll continue to look for grants to see if that can help us, particularly with the stairs.
Okay.
And that would be great if we could get some grant money.
100%, agreed. Okay, well, I'll make a motion to move $100,000 of our parking authority cash into our short-term investment fund, which is with the state of Connecticut. We already have money in that account, but this will just earmark kind of our CapEx projects into that account. And that's, so I'll make a motion for that. Does anybody want to second this? Second. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then we'll continue as we go
Yes.
along, as we get more quotes and we sign on the dotted line, then I think that's when we move some more money in there.
Yes.
When you look at these, it's like 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. It's not 1, 2, 3.
I know.
I mean, they're all
Yeah,
important.
they're all important.
And, yeah.
Yeah, and, we'll have other things that'll come up as well.
Mhm.
The police are there every night.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's great.
yeah. They've been incredibly supportive and really appreciate that.
So, I know that solar panels are not 1E, but I have continued to look into it, and I reached out to Sustainable Fairfield to just find out what, because maybe there's a grant, who knows?
Nice.
Yeah.
And the person whom I reached out to, because there was actually a big article, I'm not sure if you saw it, in France, any parking lot over a certain size, it is now required that they have solar panels. So, but anyway, it was fortuitous because I was planning to email her that day anyway. I was like, by the way, so she put me in touch with someone named Bob Wall, I think. I don't know. He's not responded to me, so I tried again actually today, and I will keep you guys posted. But if you have any other avenues for, how
I
I
haven't,
I know you had
I
plenty else
did find
going
out
on.
that we can't attach them to the UI poles.
Yeah.
We can.
We cannot.
Yeah.
Oh, cannot.
Yeah.
We cannot.
Huh. Well, that's just.
Which would also probably hold true for any security cameras.
Right.
And, the fact that people have hit a couple of the poles,
Oh, yeah. I was going
we
to say
would be
this down
losing that
today.
equipment.
Not a pole, but the garbage can was down.
Yeah, we
Right outside of
tossed that.
Okay, I was wondering, I was going to send you.
Yeah, no, I heard about it, and
Okay.
he took care of, Zealous took care of it, so.
Good.
He's on top of all this stuff. He's
So
great.
what is the rationale for why you do, or it is what it
It
is?
is what it is, it's UI, I guess they don't want to, I don't know, I don't wanna guess for them, but I'm imagining it's their property, their poles, and they don't want people doing anything that could harm the electrical wiring inside or whatever. So, yeah, you can't put it on there.
Okay. Okay, and it's just helpful to know, as I'm attempting to speak with people. I mean,
Great,
this is
thank
clearly
you.
going to be a slow-moving
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Just
Well,
refresh my memory, the security cameras when we talk about them, they're not just on the platform, but spaced throughout the.
Right, the ones on the platform are owned by
Are owned by the-
DOT
okay.
and Metro North.
There's one on you see them, they're like an eye.
Yeah.
Ours are inside the station house and outside the station house. And
On the platforms?
No, not on the platforms. They're attached to the station house and also inside the station house. That's where
Okay.
our cameras are today.
Uh-huh.
We could use some additional ones, particularly to face the back door of the station houses. There's nothing there. So there's other cameras I think that we're going to need. I'm going to try to have them come out and walk the properties with me and see what they suggest.
So you are talking like spacing them throughout the lots?
Well, no, I mean, what we talked about the last time was, foremost the station house.
Yeah.
But let's see
We
what
can get
the
some
cost would
additional
be.
coverage.
If we could get
But
additional
then she looked into
coverage.
UI, and UI said you can't put any
You can't
cameras
put them,
on their property, so we'd have to figure out.
We do have some town poles in the lot that are along the tracks, so we probably could put some on there, but, they won't reach all the way to if you're looking at the main lot, it won't reach all the way out to that wall, but we'll see what they can cover. I've
Right.
seen the cameras that they have, they use them at the marina, they use them a lot in town, and I've seen the cameras and the footage that they get back, and it's pretty good.
Good.
Very good. So, but I wanted to mention too that in light with the, trying to make savings on electrical, I've been talking with Public Works, and they're putting either sensors in the station houses so that the lights aren't on 24 hours a day, and so they'll come on, with sensors.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that should save, because we had one station house where the lights stayed on, there was no timer, and they stayed on 24 hours.
Okay.
There was a switch in the back of the station house, and it used to be that the guy who was in the ticket booth would turn that out
everywhere
when
you
he
go.
left.
Yeah, one of us
But-
could drive over there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Like the
Well, that's what the
remote with the,
Yeah.
Well, some of the special officers that work for the police, they were doing that. They were turning
Really?
the switch off for us. I said that,
This is painful.
That's amazing.
yeah. No, they're great. They're
Yeah.
incredibly supportive. So,
Good.
but yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
We've gotten 2 station houses done so far.
Great, that's terrific.
Very well, excellent. I think that kind of concludes the capital project conversation, but, we'll continue to revisit this and keep everyone apprised of where we're at, so. with that, did you have any?
If you allow me to speak for just a couple of minutes,
You just have
know
to
your
make
time
a
is
vote
valuable.
to allow public comment.
Okay,
Hold on,
yeah.
yes, you just have to make a vote to allow public comment,
Okay,
and you
great.
can speak.
I'll make a
Because it
motion.
wasn't on the agenda.
Was it on the agenda? So we got to follow protocol here. I'm going to make a motion to allow for public comment.
I second.
Adrian seconds it. Okay, all in favor?
Right.
Right.
I guess I thank you.
Floor.
First, my name is Dan Race. I'm with Automated Building Systems. We have our controls in the library in town. We have all the buildings. We have all Fairfield University and Sacred Heart. We control all the buildings in those two facilities. The reason I'm here is because I figure Parking Authority may have addressed the question of EV charging. And I realize that you have 10 stations outside. I see 6 of them covered up. I'm not sure if they're out of service or because they just don't use them, so they're trying to protect them.
They just got put in, yeah.
Okay, so
The ones in this lot,
it says
right?
9/24/2022 on.
Oh.
So I assume, yeah, they're very new.
Yeah.
So they haven't, they're all operational, I assume. Okay, so just, I don't want to hold you up because I know your time is valuable, but thought I'd take advantage. I did get a chance to meet with John Marsilio when I first got here tonight around 5.
Mm-hmm.
He took my literature that I was going to bring to you on EV charging. We have a product that is nothing like what you have out there. It sits inside the building, not outside. Mm-hmm. It's very protected from elements, vandalism, and accidents. Those, if you damage those, you're paying thousands of dollars to replace them. Ours are just dummies. You know, if it's a pedestal out there, it's a shell. And it just has a cable that goes out. We could reuse, well, they're going to stay there. I'm just saying anywhere else in town that you decide with the parking authority to put in EV charging, you may consider us, and before you leave, if I can just get an email from one or more so I can share the information that I gave to John. But it's the safest system going. It's very unique. Nobody else makes something like this. It's one panel controls 12 stations, or 12 ports, I mean.
Okay. How big is the equipment inside? Got it. Okay.
It's slimmer than that, but it's about that height.
Mm-hmm.
And the panel has 12 smart circuit breakers in it that if somebody was to damage the cable while they're charging, instantaneously it would cut everything off and there'd be no chance of electrocution. As I say, there's no power even to them until there's a handshake between the person charging and the person and the system, I mean. So that somebody comes up, they use the app on their phone, Android or iPhone, and they say, I want to charge. So they're going to charge, and the charging period, ours is 48 amp, most of them are 32 amps, so ours charges faster. It'll take probably 3 to 4 hours versus 5 to 6 to charge, fully charge, and fully charge means 80%.
Okay.
Because nobody charges their cars to 100%, they don't allow one. In case of overcharging. But all this, you don't need to absorb all this, you don't have to think about it, except for, take in some of the highlights that I'm representing, is that if you're concerned about having all those running at the same time, they could exceed the peak demand if they're all running simultaneously. And at the time during the day, there's no software on those, I know there isn't, that's controlling the peak demand use. So whatever is being used that normally may cost $40, it's going to cost $400 to charge a car, because it's going to exceed that demand charge. So when we monitor every single charger in the state that we install, and we have software package that does that per control company. But the controls that came with the system will allow us to ramp down the charging of those vehicles so that it's going to take longer now. But it's not going to cost $400. It's going to stay costing $40 to charge that car. And you can also create a revenue stream with using these. None of these are being bringing money back to the town of Fairfield, according to John.
Okay.
John says we're not creating a revenue stream on it. They cost us nothing, and we're not charging anybody anything.
Okay.
Well, that seems kind of foolish in these days, in this day and age when electricity rates, the UI and Eversource are going way up.
Right.
So we're saying, you know, you put in our charge or someplace else in town, because I don't expect you to rip these out.
Sure.
But if you put them at the library, you put them someplace else at the railroad station,
Yeah.
railroad station would be perfect for it. I don't know if that's Amtrak or is that Fairfield?
That's all we manage, is the
Yeah.
train stations. We don't manage the
Okay,
other
well,
parts
then that's
of
a
the town.
perfect spot. That's
That would be John Marsilio that would manage the
because the
John
people
Street.
are working in New York City probably all day long. They come home, they have a fully charged car.
Right.
And the only problem with that is ours actually monitors the system, and the software allows you to change it. But say it was either in a business or in a school in town where somebody sees a EV charging station at a convenient place to park because it's close to the building, and they're going to let it sit there all day. Well, our system doesn't allow them to do that, or it does allow them to do that. You have a choice. But
Right.
if you don't want that person sitting there all day long just monopolizing the charger just because he's got a convenient parking spot, shame on him. We'll tell his iPhone or Android, we'll say, you just been alerted you have a half hour to move your car, otherwise you're going to be charged. And you decide how much. It can be nothing,
Okay.
or it can be $10, $20, $30, $100, whatever you want to make it.
Okay.
Everything is variable and everything is controllable by you with the
I know.
software.
Good overview. What pays just give us the download of what we have to pay. Is it a lease? Is it
Right.
what is
You're going to own the stations. So basically, there is an annual fee for the software. It's like $250 for the software because it does update, and we don't make any money on that. The company that supplies the software package collects the $250. What I'm saying is you can make this a revenue stream so that the amount of money that you're receiving over years' time goes directly to your authority or goes directly to the town or whoever owns the station, but you own them.
Right.
You get $20,000 from UI. Eversource is in our territory, but down here it's UI, and we know the one that's person managing the program down here, $20,000 per site.
Okay.
So if you have 4 sides of the building, that's 4 sites, that's $80,000. But you have to realize that you have skin in the game. So UI or Eversource, the utility companies are not giving you the full $20,000.
All right.
Case in point, just to give you an example, we're doing a luxury condo in Hartford. They're getting $40,000 per site because it's underserved. Hartford, New Haven, Waterbury, Bridgeport are all underserved.
Okay.
So they get $40,000 per site. The cost of a project that they already signed for is $125,000 for 7 ports. This just gives you some idea how much this is costing. They're getting 80% of that, which is actually $117,000 because $125,000 is with the tax.
Okay.
So $117,000 is the cost of the project plus tax. Eversource is given 80%, it's $94,000. Nothing to sneeze at. I mean, $94,000 is nice. They still have to pony up $31,000. They have 237 units. If you work that out, spread it across each unit for 2 years, it's $10 a unit per month.
Well, great.
I'm just.
Yeah, no, I know. I
can break all this down in email.
Yeah, let us.
I don't want to
take
take
this
a
away.
lot of time.
I do have one quick question. You mentioned that it's in the building. How close do these stations have to be to the building?
They can be hundreds of feet away, but it's to your advantage because Eversource UI pays 100% installation. That includes all the excavation. So any excavation repaving costs are paid up to $20,000 per site. So if it exceeds the $20,000, then it's on you. But it's $20,000. If you have a lot of excavation, could be up real quick.
Yeah.
But the cable, that includes the cable running to it, that includes all the labor and everything. They pay 50%, and like within that 20 grand, they pay 50% of the material, which is the charger.
Who pays, like, so I have an electric car, well, I don't, but if I did,
You be interested.
when I pull up to this and I plug in,
You pay immediately on your phone.
On my
There's no
phone?
cash. There's no cash involved. There's no pay station involved.
Yeah.
We can set up a
The
pedestal
charger's
pay
not-
station
yeah.
so that if you want people to swipe a credit card, they have that ability. But what we see most people interested, especially with COVID, the pandemic, they want to get away from cards, they want to get away from cash. Cards are safe, but they still want to get away from any kind of thing where somebody could come out and damage that station.
Yeah.
Because everything that's got the smarts in is inside your building. As I say, all you have is a shell. You have a cheap metal
You
shell
run from cable.
with cable, and the cable's the only thing that is going to be an expense if somebody damages. But most often the cable on the ground is not going to be damaged. It's just going to be the cable from the station to your car.
Yeah, we'd have to, Eileen's point, closest to the station house is our, a lot of handicap spots, but let's get some thought to this.
Okay, I
Yeah, no,
just
it's really
wanted to
helpful.
expose the idea to you.
I just have one more question. So you said that these out here, right, the town gets nothing from, right?
That's according to John.
Okay.
John told me that they're not taking any revenue from it. They got them for free,
If
and they're
that's
just
the
giving away
case,
free electricity.
Why are they there?
They're there because eventually they're going to change, all
Municipal
the town vehicles to, the fleet cars to EV cars, and that's where the savings would be. That's my understanding.
10, I'm surprised you have 10 out there, because most people start off with just, in order to get to 20 grand, you only need to have 4 ports. So, one of the other things nice about our system is, we have just one panel, and each one of these is a panel, so each one is thousands of dollars. Our panel is a certain value, but has 12 possible ports it can go to. And it's all set inside, it's all protected. And, but it's future-proof. So say you want to just use the 20 grand and only put the 4 required ports in.
Mm-hmm.
4. I have to look at my figures. The 4 required ports, then just hook that up to that panel, but now you still have 8 unused ports, 8 unused controls to those additional ports. So for future proofing, you could have, if you have enough money left over, you can run cable, but not even put up the pedestals. Pedestals can go later. And it takes all the
Lays through that initial setup.
all the excavation, everything that's covered under the 20,000 per site can all be done under that price.
Okay.
So that allows you for future proofing. It gives you a panel that can expand, up to 12. And then you have to buy another panel if you even go further than that. But while the money's there, like last year, just to give you an idea of what happens to the money, we tried to do some work in the third quarter, it was gone.
Wow.
We're already working with the city of Hartford, and there's some private concerns in Hartford, because they're getting the most bang for the buck. They're getting 40 grand, and so is they've in Bridgeport. But they're realizing that if they do as much as, like some are saying, I'm going to put in a 6-inch conduit now and have Eversource pay for it,
right.
And then I can put more cable in there later to run it elsewhere. And that they're doing that, which they can, and legally and under the program they can do that. Because they're taking advantage of what they think the future may be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just giving you some food for thought. That's all. And I'll if everybody, I can pass my.
I definitely want to see some
If
pictures.
you like, want to give me your email, you can do that, and then I can give you the information I talked about.
Yeah, I gave you my card,
Yeah,
and that's the best thing
Why don't you
to
run
do,
it through
is
me?
write this
Yeah.
stuff. And
Okay, I'll just send you.
Yeah.
That's fine, then you can share with the group.
Definitely put some pictures out. I want to see what they look like. We're very,
What I have is there's a video that's only about 2 minutes. It'll actually show how this is a very unique system and how it's totally safe and protected inside.
Okay.
And the key thing, I think, is the demand charges. I mean, 'cause people don't even take that into consideration. But all of a sudden, they're realizing they're paying hundreds of dollars for a charge versus $40. And it happens because Eversource or UI are gonna say, well, you've exceeded your
Right.
the demand.
Helpful. Thank
Anyway,
you.
hey, I appreciate you even letting me come in and sit in here. I tried to.
We don't get a lot of visitors, so thank you for that. I know.
John told me he's never set foot in one of these meetings.
No,
I don't know if that's true or not.
not ours, no.
Great.
But I know for part of this, we probably have to work with Department of Public Works.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
I thought that the authority may have some authority to
Well, we
promote
have,
it.
You know,
we have our own, for the train station, we would do, but obviously we
Train station
work
is
closely with, the town on everything, so.
train station would be a perfect potential for this, only because people are gonna park their car and leave it there. And you don't have to tell them to get lost after, 3 or 4 hours, because they're gonna be working for 8 hours. And come home, so you can still.
But the audience, though, we remember to park you have to have a permit, so, right there could be, we have to figure out how to structure this if we go ahead with this. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We're gonna digest the material, and probably schedule a follow-up.
The permitting fees that you have could offset
Right,
the extra costs that beyond the incentive.
right. We could put in the daily.
Because you could spread it out to more people.
Run that course.
It'd be less burdensome. Anyway,
Super helpful.
I thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. All right, with that, I'm gonna make a motion to conclude the meeting.
8 o'clock.
And that's
8 o'clock. 8 p.m.
I'll second that motion.
Does anyone else want a card? I've got cards.
Great. All right, we got a second from Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Have a good night.
The
Thank you very
meeting's
much.
concluded at